the public version of this just came out, so we're back to Far Beyond the World again. That's really all I have to say. So let's just pick things up where we left them off, with our MC dozing off finally. Gentle patting on my shoulder stirs me from my sleep. I can hear a muffled voice break through the veil. "Well, Sam." What? I open my eyes sleepily, blinking to adjust my vision. The grey wolf squats in front of me with a gentle smile. Without thinking, I throw myself into his arms, tipping him over. He lands on his butt with an amused oof, embracing me tightly. I can sense my reaction surprised him. The swoosh of his tail assures me I did it in a good way. I rub my head against his neck fluff, just taking in his scent. I didn't think it was possible to miss someone so much. Suddenly I remember the other wolf keeping watch over me, pulling away from Rannoch in order to avoid making a scene. As the wolf readjusts himself, I notice that we're in fact alone. Where's the guard?
Well, he's gone now.
The wolf smiles at me.
Hope you were treated okay.
You might as well be in part of the furniture. Didn't budge or make a sound.
Why, you're on the floor. You should have used the bed.
Rannoch raises one brow, nodding towards it. Honestly, I was afraid to startle the guy. He was super tense.
Huh. For someone so tiny, you're incredibly ballsy when dealing with wolves.
And again with that Kalen stuff. He's been calling me tiny a lot. I guess he really likes that nickname. Since I see you instead of an executioner, I take it we're good?
Oh, yes.
He nods with clear relief.
Well, everything's fine. You're released into my custody.
What does that mean?
That...
He cuts off, slightly troubled. He's clearly looking for the right words.
That I'm responsible for you.
So, pretty much what we wanted, no? I inquire as the pause made me slightly worried.
Oh yes, pretty much.
He chuckles, extending a paw to help me up. As I stand up, my eyes immediately hit by a harsh beam of light. Damn, it's morning already? I squint.
Oh yeah.
You talked throughout the day and night?
It was a hard sell.
He admits with a bit of embarrassment.
Well, I told you my people are rather set in their ways. Also, Varissa is questioned a lot due to her age. Many of the elders don't trust her ability to speak with the spirits. And then you have the elders. They like to talk.
So that's why it's called the Howl. I propose cheekily, and he suppresses an idle laughter.
Well, I swear, my father was getting pretty fed up halfway through the meeting.
No wonder. If it started at noon, you pretty much spent 18 hours arguing.
Oh yeah, and it got pretty heated. Well, my father's position...
He pauses, if not sure whether he should elaborate or not, forcing me to pry. The wolf sighs, reaching up towards his shoulder pad.
It's a long story, and for another time. Just know there are things the elders like to bring up against him.
I watch uncomfortably as he struggles to undo a latch beneath the metal plate. You need help with that? Looks rather fiddly. I ask needlessly as I find my hands already reaching out towards his paws.
You don't have to.
He pauses as my small fingers already sunk beneath the plate. With a click, the piece of armour is detached and the wolf places it carefully down on the ground.
Oh, thank you.
I watch as he removes his cloak along with the leather straps which secure the shoulder pad in place and held the blade on his back. He rests his massive longsword against the wall, next to the chest. Only now I have a good look at that thing. It's nearly as tall as the candelabra. It must weigh a freaking ton, which explains his massive arms. I bet he could easily split me in half. My eyes wander around the room as a blush creeps onto my face, especially as he undoes his belt, allowing it to clang to the floor with a loud thud. You want me to put it all away? The chest, perhaps? Another flop draws my gaze back to him as he dropped his padded armour carelessly onto the heap.
Aren't you settling into your role?
He laughs teasingly.
Well, let's just leave it here. I'll have to put it back on soon enough. I only have a few hours to rest.
The wolf walks towards the bed and sits down, reclining back onto his elbows. I follow and take the spot next to him. It's a beautiful morning, and although the wolf's expression invites me to admire the light spectacle outside, my eyes wander to the sun rays gently kissing his sculpted body. It almost seems that the light redefines his musculature, making it even more pronounced than before. I shake my head slightly, trying to regain my train of thought. What is wrong with me? So, we're dealing with a distrusted shaman and a questioned leader. I think out loud, reflecting on our conversation as it did not exactly put me at ease. Seems like this whole place is pretty unstable.
Oh, you have no idea.
Rannoch laughs, smiling at me with amusement. That's not a good thing. If anything, sounds like my situation isn't exactly sorted, and it's clear Rannoch realises that. He sighs and nods in defeat.
I know. But one thing at a time, friend.
He pats my shoulder reassuringly. Friend. I'm both glad and distraught to hear him call me that. I treasure his friendship and am glad our previous mishap didn't hamper it, but is it really all he wants me to be? I sigh, not even sure where my thoughts are taking me. We sit like this for a moment in silence. I can clearly see there's nowhere else to say while I'm deep in my thoughts. I desperately try to escape my infatuation. There are more important things at hand. If Arissa's and the chief's positions are indeed insecure, I might prove to be their undoing. For whatever reason, I feel like I have unwittingly become a pawn in a game I won't even get to play. But I'm getting ahead of myself. With the chief's apparent fury and now the entire tribe's attention on me, I just need to focus on surviving until the next day. I slump a little, realising this whole mess unfolded the way it did due to my own carelessness. I'm sorry I allowed myself to be seen like that.
I did ask you to stay out of sight.
He nods with a slight smile. You did, and I fucked up. It's just, there was so much going on.
Relax, it wasn't all your fault. That little shit should have stayed away. He always sneaks around my house, but I thought he learned his lesson after the last time I caught him outside my windows.
I could hear a stifled growl brewing deep inside his throat, which makes me wonder about the pup. Rannoch doesn't seem to like him very much. Who is he?
Well, he's my younger brother. Well, half-brother anyway.
The wolf rolls his eyes in annoyance.
Well, ever since I moved out from the villa, he snoops around.
He probably just misses you. I propose, as I find it rather harsh towards a child, even if he did put our lives in danger. Rannoch simply closes his eyes and releases an exasperated sigh.
Well, that's neither here nor there. I'm not his damn den mother.
I assume that's some sort of village nanny. I can see he's clearly annoyed, so I allow him a moment to calm down before I continue my questioning. What's his name?
Well, he doesn't have one. He hasn't earned it yet.
Well, you have to call him something. I chuckle.
A pup call of sorts. It's like a nickname, usually derived from the pup's behaviour or physique. Here's his howl. As you can guess, he wouldn't shut up when he was born. Although if you ask me, he should have been called Snitch.
Don't be like that. He's just a kid. I smile awkwardly.
A very nosy and an annoying one, that's for sure.
Seeing him so grumpy and serious almost demands a tease. As if you were a well-behaved pup. I laugh him off. With your tendency to seek out trouble, I'd say it runs in the family. I wonder what's your pup name? I chuckle and I can see his eyes widen in shock. Only for a moment he quickly narrows his eyes, grumbling.
Well, you can continue to wonder.
Come on, are you seriously not going to tell me?
Well, it's a grave insult to use a pup call towards an adult wolf,
he states in a serious tone.
Once we stake a claim to our name tree, our pup name is meant to be forgotten.
Seriously, your people need to learn to relax a bit. All his posture is a little over the top. I laugh him off, but his expression doesn't soften. I think I found another sore spot.
Well, it's not posturing. If your pup name a wolf, he's honour bound to challenge you to a duel to prove his mantle.
You people duel over misnaming?
Well, it's not a trifle, it's deadly serious.
He scolds me. Yeah, so far with your people, everything is.
Well, by using a pup name, you're basically questioning a wolf's worth. The only way to restore honour is through combat, often to the death.
Yeah, why am I surprised? If you kill over a name tree, why wouldn't this misnaming be any different? The wolf issues a long huff, giving me a mixture of a hurt and patronising gaze.
Well, look, Sam, I understand you're a human, and I don't know anything about your culture, or I'm sure I'd find half of your practices objectionable, to say the least.
He states defiantly, causing me to blink.
We have lots to learn from each other. I can see that. For any learning to take place, there has to be a willingness to listen and to understand one another. I want to learn from you, but so far all you do is mock our customs and give me flack over things I don't control.
He finishes chastising me, and I slightly sink into my shoulders. Although harsh, his words ring true. I've been overly cynical, if not outright critical, of his way of life. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I admit in defeat. All of this is extremely confusing to me, but none of it is meant as an insult. I guess it's just my defense mechanism. I don't understand what's going on. I don't remember anything beyond what's happening here and now. So, instead of panicking, I try to pick apart everything that's new. He listens carefully to my explanation, his expression shifting a little. I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to fill up this utter void in my head, so I tend to overthink everything you tell me.
You seem quite functional for someone who claims to have an empty mind.
He mutters, almost as if he began questioning my memory loss. It's all just an act. In reality, I'm in the same boat as you are. I don't know any more about the human culture than you do. He narrows his eyes, but this time more worried than annoyed. I don't remember how humans do things. Somehow I feel that even if you were to tell me, it would still be just as alien as the rest of this is.
Well, what are you saying? You weren't living among your kin?
In truth, I want to tell him I feel as if I'm from another world entirely. This would just be admitting lunacy. I sigh in resignation. Yeah, I guess so.
So I suppose you live somewhere among the Tigrai then, which would explain your superiority complex.
I give him an annoyed look. Your guess is as good as mine. I can see his eyes drill into me as if expecting me to elaborate. I don't know what to tell you, Rannoch. I've got nothing. I shrug and he scoffs in amusement.
Well, not exactly. You still have your compass.
He bumps into me with his shoulder, forcing a reluctant laugh out of me. If you say so. I shrug, defeated, and the wolf looks towards the window. It's clear that my memory loss bothers him almost as much as it bothers me. It does kind of put a hole in his plan. Can't take me home, there's no home to speak of. Eventually, after a moment of silence, he looks back at me with his usual determination.
There's always tomorrow. We'll get your memories, Caelan.
He grins, ruffling my hair, and I smile back at him for a moment before I pause. Hold on. Suddenly it hits me. All this time he's been using my characteristic as a nickname. I can see his grin widen at my realization. You dick, you pup-named me.
It took you a while.
He winks cheekily and I snicker. All this talk about how insulting this is while you've been pup-calling me all along. You're such a hypocrite.
Well, as the kettle said to the pot.
He snorts and I decide to teasingly punch his shoulder, although without putting some actual force behind it. My knuckles buckle as if I hit a stone wall, and I immediately have to cradle my hand in slight discomfort, causing him to laugh.
Also not really a hypocrite if you are as helpless as a pup.
He laughs off my pathetic attempt at roughhousing, and in turn punches me right in the chest. Just like I did, he placed a little bit of force behind his tease, and I winced in pain, rubbing my now aching breast.
See? A total pup.
He snorted, so I kept rubbing the sore spot with feigned annoyance, when I noticed his eyes dart to my side with a worried expression. It's almost as if he forgot himself and is now worried he might have overdone the punch. Such a good wolf.
How's your wound?
The wolf asks, his voice lined with concern.
I was worried sick. Couldn't think straight about anything else.
Honestly, I think it's fine. I look down at the bloodied bandage. Although it looks bad, the blood has dried off and the wound beneath doesn't even hurt anymore. I'm glad no one took a look at it, because Vull might have been too careful.
Are you complaining he didn't stab you hard enough?
He laughs nervously. Well, I've never been stabbed before, but this whole thing feels too good for a grave wound. I kind of forget it's even there most of the time.
I, for one, am glad. But I would like to put this whole mess behind us.
I nod in agreement. We both gaze idly at the window. He leans back, tensing out his exposed belly, and I have to fight the urge to just pet it. I don't understand my bizarre attraction to him. It feels very sudden.
He's charming, all right.
It's not typical of me to get lost in a guy like this. Or is it? After all, I did lose all my memory. I'd like to think I wasn't this easy to wrap around a finger. Still, something about this wolf is different. He's quirky, a bit forward and too full of himself, but at the same time extremely vulnerable. I think he let himself be boxed up his entire life, and our little mishap proved it best. I can feel a blush slowly creeping onto my face, as I'm reminded what I actually wanted to talk about. He's not alone. Even if we're just friends, I want him to know I understand what he's going through. Rannoch? He looks at me with a soft smile. I wanted to tell you something, but I don't know how.
You seem to have a pretty good grasp of our language.
He smirks. It's not that. I struggle. This is much harder to do than I thought. He just looks at me with a smirk, raising one brow in a teasing expression. Damn, he knows how to disarm me. It's about yesterday morning. I finally spill it out, looking away at the window.
Oh. I'd rather not talk about that.
His voice takes on a more serious tone. I swallow heavily, not wanting to leave the matter unresolved. I just want you to know that I don't... I sigh. I don't mind it, okay? And if you do, I hope you won't start calling me defective. I cringe, really unsettled by the term.
Oh, never.
Good, because I don't think it's right. I don't think anyone should feel wrong or broken just because they like guys. I finish, not even looking at him. I can't believe I just said it, but I am glad I did. It had to be said. I hear the wolf readjust himself as he turns to face me with an expression full of disbelief.
Wait a moment. You like males?
Fuck. It is hard to force myself to face him, but I have to look into his eyes. Otherwise, what was the point of bringing all of this up? To my surprise, his expression is kind and a little bit expectant. I could almost see a light lit up above his head. I hope we can still be friends.
Well, of course we can.
He scoffs at me as if it never a question. I'm glad to hear it.
But...
Uh-oh.
I'm not like you.
He grimaces with embarrassment.
I really do like females.
Oh. I freeze, looking at the window. In truth, I just want to jump out of it.
Besides, you're rather small and wrong species, no?
He cuts me off with a chuckle, almost as if trying to save me embarrassment. I laugh nervously. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about it. It doesn't change anything between us.
Of course it does. I just made a fool out of myself. Fuck. I guess I've seen too many stories to think this would work out the way I thought it would. I guess it's for the best. I really don't feel I'm in control of my emotions, and I'm shifting from one extreme to another. I'm so dumb. Why do I even think of romance in my current situation?
Are you okay? You've gone pretty quiet. I hope you're not taking my rejection too hard.
He winks at me in clear jest. Rejection? You should be so lucky. Who said I'm interested? I punch his arm teasingly, nervous laughter escaping my lips.
Whatever you say, Tiny.
He chuckles and plops down on the bed.
No, I don't know about you, but I really need to get some sleep.
He makes an exaggerated yawn, his tongue coiling up inside his maw like a snake.
Would you close the shutters?
Sure. I walk towards the window, allowing the wolf to splay himself out when I suddenly stop in my tracks. Wait, you have fucking shutters and you're only mentioning them now?
Yeah. Oh, why?
This whole mess could have been avoided if they were closed to begin with.
Maybe. But aside from looking suspicious to others, being locked in a dark room would freak you out even more than this whole thing already did.
He shrugs through another protracted yawn. I chuckle, looking at his open jaw, his tongue dangling out in such a goofy fashion. He finally closes his muzzle with a loud smack.
You're on the verge of a heart attack anyway.
I shake my head with a sigh, deciding to simply drop the issue. Carefully, I relocate the clutter onto the floor. Once the ledge is cleared, I open up the window and for the first time lean out of it freely. The fresh air feels wonderful on my skin. This little taste of the outside world only makes me want more. The forest is alive and buzzing with activity. I can hear the gentle rustle of leaves accompanied by the chirping of birds. There's even a pair of squirrels chasing each other across the canopy, jumping from one branch to another. Maybe we get to go out sometime later. I'd really love that. A hike through these woods seems a dream come true. This place looks like it's from a fairy tale. But for the time being, I'll just follow Rannoch's lead. I put us in danger one time too many on this silly whim. I decide to simply grab the shutters and close them, allowing the dark to claim the bedroom. Since I'm no longer a secret, I leave the window open, allowing much-needed forest air to flow freely into the otherwise dank room.
Sorry I left you without any provisions. You must be...
He interrupts, ensuing another prolonged yawn.
Starved. I brought you some food. It's in the kitchen.
The wolf mutters and I smile, seeing he's pretty much half asleep already. Don't you worry about me. You just rest. I go to the kitchen to find a linen bundle on the table. I sit down, slowly unwrapping it to reveal thick slices of roasted ham and some forest fruits. The ham smells wonderfully, causing my mouth to water with its smoky aroma. But it's the berries that pique my attention. They're glistening with morning dew and look extremely ripe. I select one large blackberry and eat it. It immediately bursts with sweet tang at the slightest touch of my tongue, bringing a smile to my face. They're freshly picked and carefully selected, which must have taken some time considering the season. Why is he trying so hard if he's into girls? I sigh, shaking my head. I'm reading into things again, while I should focus on more important matters. I'm curious how exactly the meeting went. Rannoch's description doesn't fill me with confidence. I can understand Verissa being questioned a lot after all. I myself kind of felt she was too young to be a shaman. I don't even know what shamans do. But the chief? He seems like one tough guy. Why would he be questioned? Almost sounds as if the elders had a hook on him, which in and of itself sounds rather scary. I might not have a full picture to truly understand the power dynamic in this tribe, but it seems the elders have a large sway. At this point I'm not sure if it's my place to wonder such things, or if it's my prerogative to know the details due to the situation we're all in. I simply pick up a piece of ham and bite in. It's luscious and the oaky aroma just makes me feel warm inside. This food, although very simple, really hits the spot. I don't know why, but I have a feeling I was used to much different type of meals. A bit more complex, true, but devoid of this pure joy. I regard the parcel again, seeing its selection is rather odd. I flash my brows as I decide to give it a try. I eat another berry while chewing a slice of ham. To my surprise, the combination works. the sweet and savoury blend in an unexpectedly delicious way. That wolf sure knows how to please me. I look back towards the bedroom. An involuntary smile creeps on my face as I admire Rannoch's musculature. Even lazily splayed out on the bed, he looks extremely attractive. Wish I was this photogenic. Wait, photo what? Ugh. I know those weird fucking words I somehow understand but have no context for. If this continues much longer, I'm going to go insane. There goes my appetite. I just sit there, looking at the window with slight worry. I might be finding my bearing among these wolves, but I'm as much in the weeds with regards to who I am as I was the day I woke up. I'm just starved for answers, and I'm sure this is the reason why I push for additional information whenever I can. I need to keep an eye on this. I don't feel like pressing Rannoch for unnecessary details, especially if he doesn't feel like divulging just yet. So far, trusting him worked just fine. Realising I won't be able to eat anymore, I simply walk to the cupboard and wash off my hands. I guess I should rest a bit as well. My body's aching all over from sleeping rough. As I return to the bed, I can see that Rannoch is already fast asleep, snoring slightly as his massive chest expands and falls down in a slow rhythm. His muzzle is burrowed into the pillows and slightly opened, allowing his saliva to dribble out. I smile, knowing all too well how this wolf drools in his sleep. I'm glad it's the pillows that will now soak up all that spit. He's so cute for someone so big. I mutter, fighting the urge to just rub his belly, but he's too darn adorable not to. My hand reaches towards his breast and I hesitate for a moment. That's when a lazy stretch tenses up his body as the wolf readjusts himself slightly, and I cannot help myself anymore. I let my hand sink into the lush coat of his chest, ruffling it gently. My fingers slide beneath the moonstone, the first time feeling its surface. It's polished and heavier than I expected. I move it slightly out of the way so I can rub his breasts. His expression adjusts into a soft smile. He's clearly enjoying this even through sleep. I move my hand gently towards the abdomen, trying not to stir him from his slumber. I ruffle his coat around the navel, drawing another idle stretch from the wolf. I chuckle quietly. He's so fluffy I'm going to die. My fingers brush across his entire belly, his coat soft and inviting. Even now I can clearly feel defined muscles beneath all that fur. He really didn't have an idle moment in his life. I press slightly harder, as to give his abs a slight workout. He groans softly, and I instantly blush, noticing his loincloth tense up. I'm no longer sure which one of us gets more out of this little stimulation. I allow myself a few more moments, but as I notice my own excitement, I decide to stop. I exhale heavily, trying to release the pent-up tension. This got slightly awkward. I rub my hands uncomfortably, trying to figure out what to do. For a moment I consider returning to the floor, but then I remember his own words. Rannoch wouldn't be happy if he found me like that again. I look back at him, still sleeping in perfect bliss. He looks so peaceful that I decide to simply lay beside him, though keep an appropriate distance. He made it clear he's not interested, so I'll respect our personal spaces. The last thing I want is another awkward accident. I know his tendency to roll over, so I simply take one spare blanket and furl it up to create some sort of divide between us. I lay there for a moment, feeling most of my body ache. Sleeping on the floor was not good for me, so the soft bed accompanied by his rhythmic breathing quickly puts me to sleep. But we don't get to sleep long, as Rannoch gets up after just a few hours. I have to admire his self-discipline, as getting out of the bed is almost like an uphill battle for me.
What's this all about?
Rannoch points to my makeshift barricade as he rubs his eyes. I thought it would prevent, I wince uncomfortably.
Oh.
The wolf mutters sleepily.
Oh!
He almost shouts out in sudden realization.
Well, I can return to sleeping in the kitchen if you'd like.
He proposes nonchalantly, and this time I'm the one shouting out in panic. No. That is the last thing I want you to do.
Well, this makes things a bit weird, though.
He gazes reluctantly at the rolled-up blanket. After what you said, I just didn't want to... I try to explain myself, but he cuts me off.
Oh, don't worry about it. It was a one-time fluke.
He laughs.
Well, I simply never went to sleep like that before. You know, effectively snuggled up for someone. It was just to keep you warm, remember?
The wolf winks and gets up.
It'll never happen again.
Yeah. I mumble, looking as he approaches the window and opens the shutters. He stretches out as the light floods the room again. I watch as he goes into a whole routine of exercises, touching his toes and arching himself backwards. It's quite embarrassing to just sit here, or even more so to join him and make a fool out of myself. I'm stiff like a plank, especially after sleeping rough.
Well, I have to run some errands today. My father is in a rather sour mood, as you can imagine. Well, I need you to stay out of sight while I'm gone. Although you're allowed to stay in the village, you're still kinda controversial.
Yeah, I figured. There goes our hike in the woods.
Well, don't worry, it's not permanent, not if I can help it. Well, at the moment you're freaking everyone out a little bit, but it should pass with time.
I'm not happy about being cooped up in this house any longer, but I don't exactly have a choice in the matter either.
Well, I'm working with Varissa on a plan to smooth things over. Once that's done, you'll be introduced to the tribe proper.
And that means?
Well, let's worry about it when we get there.
He snorts, rubbing his nose. That's another non-answer, as usual. I should start getting used to those by now. He walks away into the kitchen and I decide to follow. We take turns with a water bowl, and during my wash-up I realise my teeth feel rather coarse. My breath is not where I'd like it to be. Do you guys clean your teeth at all? Perhaps with a brush or some paste?
Oh, I swear, that theory about you being a lost human noble begins to check out on a near-regular basis.
The male laughs, approaching me with a teasing smirk. He presents me a little birch twig, its flesh young and juicy.
Oh, grind the end with your teeth and then use the bristles to clean.
He demonstrates, gnawing on an imaginary twig. I shrug, no longer question this Renaissance fair I'm living through. In truth, it's actually all quite interesting. The twig has a rather pleasant, fresh flavour, almost citrusy in fact, and to my surprise is quite effective in what it's supposed to do. Once I'm done, I rinse my mouth and look at Rannoch, who approaches me with a smile. He randomly puffs into my face, his breath smelling incredibly fresh and pepperminty. That's when he hands me a small bushel of fresh peppermint.
Well, chew on it and you'll be set.
He winks. I take a few leaves and put them in my mouth. I flash my brow in amusement. It's not that bad. Seeing there isn't anything which I could spit out the mush leaves, I simply swallow them. I mean, it's just peppermint. Rannoch scrambles around the house frantically, collecting different bits and pieces of his gear. I join the wolf in the bedroom, resting against the door frame, and watch as he hastily combs his neck fur. It's hard to stifle a chuckle. Both of his sorry attempts at taming his fluff, the fact he's using the very same weapon I tried to fend off Volgo. You need any help with that?
Oh, would you? Really?
He sounds almost pleading. Sure, why not? I approach the wolf, who passes me the comb with slight embarrassment in his eyes.
I'm in a bit of a hurry, so this will be a great help.
Oh, don't worry about it. I snicker, sinking the comb into his lush neck. At first I'm worried there'll be some tangles to struggle with. I wouldn't want to pull too hard as to not cause pain. However, his fur is well kempt. You think he'll take long? I ask while running the comb from the back of his head to the base of his shoulders. The sounds of his fur against the comb is almost as satisfying as the brushing itself.
Well, I hope not, but you never know. Father wants me to deal with a few things.
The idea of staying here alone is just as novel as it is slightly distressing. For some reason I almost feel vulnerable when he's not around. What things?
Well, I'd rather not discuss that now.
He sounds troubled, and though it does pique my curiosity, I decide not to pry. Rannoch's made good on coming forward with information at the right time before. I don't have a reason to distrust him. He groaned softly, closing his eyes as I continued to groom him. Truth be told, brushing him feels rather nice. I can see he's enjoying it as well as his tail begins to swish energetically.
All right, that'll have to do.
He smiles, running a paw through his fluff.
Oh, thanks.
No problem. I shrug. Honestly, I don't think I did much at all, as his fur was tidy to begin with.
Well, I'll try to come back as soon as I'm able. Marissa should check on you later today to change your dressing.
Before you go, I would need to use the facilities. The wolf blinks.
The facilities? What are you talking about?
Oh no, it's making me spell it out for him. I really hate that I have to announce my toilet breaks. It's really awkward. I need to water the bushes.
Oh!
He finally exclaims in understanding, quickly looking at the kitchen door.
I just used one of the buckets in the other room.
Now I'm the one who blinks. You can't be serious. You telling me you're doing your business in a bucket?
What? Oh, no.
Then what made you suggest me doing it?
Well, I assumed you just needed to pee, but if it's a number 2, then I...
No, it's not number 2. I interrupt him, completely mortified about this entire conversation. I just won't be peeing into a bucket.
La-di-da, my lord.
He gets up, genuflecting in a mocking fashion.
If your highness wants to do his business outside, you'll have to go through the window.
He nods towards the ledge, and I sighed in mild annoyance. Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Well, I meant to keep you out of sight, which is part of the whole deal here. Using the front door isn't an option.
He snickers, bumping my shoulder teasingly. Fine. I don't think you'll fit through.
Well, good thing you are tiny, then.
I give him an annoyed stare, grumbling under my breath. I will find out your pup name. It's the last thing I do.
Oh, sure you will.
He laughs, walking towards the kitchen.
I'll meet you on the other side.
I shake my head and approach the sill, slowly pulling myself onto the ledge. Once I'm up, I look around for any sign of the wolf. It takes him a while to walk around the house. Once he arrives, he extends his paw, helping me down from the ledge, all the while smiling as I clumsily clamber over it. This is ridiculous. The wolf gives 2 quick glances in both directions, ensuring no one's around his house.
Right. If it's just a leak, you can simply go here.
He points to the side and I look around in confusion. What?
Here, against the wall.
I'm not pissing on your house. I huff defiantly at the suggestion.
What does it matter? I don't care, and the house won't mind.
I stand still, not even acknowledging it.
Oh, are you a shy peer? Is that it?
He asks mockingly. I'm not a shy peer.
Well then, prove it.
A challenging smirk stretches across his muzzle and my mouth opens wide.
What? Here, I'll show you how it's done.
He snickers and turns to the side, slowly undoing his pants. I quickly throw my gaze into the distance, shielding my eyes with a hand. No, don't show me anything. The wolf only chuckles. I hear a stream splash against the wall. Dude. I mutter in annoyance, walking some distance away from him.
Haha, you are a shy peer.
And you're a shameless one. He knows how to make me feel uncomfortable, that's for sure. Eventually he joins me, still tidying up his pants. Once he's done, I can see his arms swoop to embrace me, remind you of Age's grasp at the very last moment. Nope, you're not touching me with those paws until you wash them.
Well, I didn't piss on them.
Rannoch scoffs at the suggestion. I'm serious. He laughs, shaking his head and giving me an amused shrug.
As you wish, my lord.
Just take me to the toilet, please. I almost sound pleadingly, really getting more and more uncomfortable about this whole situation.
The outhouse is a little bit further behind,
he says with a worried tone.
I'd rather no one see you. You sure you can't just muster the courage to go here?
Is this the only privy in the entire village, or are you expecting people to be queuing up to yours in particular?
Fine, fine. Cut the snark.
The wolf shakes his head and waves at me to follow. We walk a few paces through the bushes and I can see a small shed nettles between the trees.
Right, here it is.
Yep. I nod, pretty much having my worst suspicions confirmed. I look around, almost as if hoping that the toilet, more suited to my needs, materialise out of the blue, but I quickly realise there's no other way around it. Okay, now if you won't mind. I sigh, shooing away with my hands.
I don't know about this. I'd rather stay close.
Rannoch, I'm not planning an escape, and I doubt anyone is going to ambush me while I'm in the loo. I just want to have some privacy. I mutter in resignation. The wolf gives me an awkward smile.
Fine. You're right. Sorry.
He backs down slowly and I take a deep breath. This is going to be the least favourite part of this entire misadventure. I try to pull myself back onto the ledge. Before I even know it, Rannoch aids me in my struggle. My eyes widen as his massive paw cups my butt, allowing the wolf to push me upwards. Did he just feel me up? I dart my gaze back towards him, only to catch a glimpse of his cheeky expression as he rushes off into the distance.
Stay put.
His mocking command reaches me and I shake my head in amusement. Scampering through windows feels so odd, also kind of fun. There's something inherently childish about it, some of a naughty kid having a forbidden sleepover at a friend's house. Once I jump over the ledge, I almost trip over the clutter that previously occupied it. I have half a mind to just return all this to the sill, but considering how musty this house is, I'd rather be able to leave the window open for a while. The time being, I simply move it all to the cupboard. I'm just a guest. I shouldn't rearrange things. When I place the leather-bound book down, I decide to have a quick peek inside. I flip the hard cover, curiously looking over the first page, wondering if I'll recognise the lettering. To my surprise, it looks like a regular book with regular writing. Brief History of Freyfall. A history book. Considering my circumstances, it's the last thing I need. It'd be like reading Chronicles of Narnia. I laugh at my own joke, putting the book away, only to have my heart sink immediately at the realisation I have no idea why it was so funny. What's Narnia, anyway? Forever lost. Oh no, not this again. I quickly shake my head, not wanting to deal with another invasive torrent of thoughts. With Rannoch gone, I don't have my safety net and I cannot let this day drag on. I need to keep myself busy. I glance around to find something to do, and the first thing that comes to mind is tidying up the place. It's clear Rannoch doesn't spend much time in his house. That's no excuse to live with so much dust. That's not healthy. I remember seeing a broom earlier near the fireplace, so I walk into the kitchen to find it. I also open all the windows, leaving the doors to the bedroom ajar so the fresh air could run through the house while I commence my cleaning. I grab the broom and immediately get to work, brushing all the dirt from the floor and gather up all the cobwebs dotting the walls and corners. Over time I begin to collect a small heap, which I only grow by brushing more and more dust from all the different nooks and crannies. So I don't see a shovel anywhere, I decide to use one of the dirty linens still bundled up in the bedroom. I lay it flat in the middle of the floor and simply brush the mound of dust onto it. I then bring the corners together, effectively creating a sack. Once that is done, I simply walk over the window and chuck the dirt outside, flapping the linen over the ledge to dust it off. I rest myself against the wall, rubbing my forehead and releasing an exhausted sigh. This was a bit of a workout. But just as I try to rest, the nagging sensation in my stomach returns. Nope, not today, Dark Thoughts. I won't let you overwhelm me, even if I have to clean this house inch by inch. Holding the dirty cloth in my hand gives me an idea. I rush over towards the water bowl, decide to use the remaining contents to wash the floors. I simply dip the cloth and then rub it over the wooden panels. Slowly but surely, each plank regains its shine and polish. I always thought this was naked wood, but it turns out it is only dull because of all the dirt and grime. The draft makes cleaning that much easier and pleasant, with a cool breeze gently kissing my skin. I stop now and then to nibble on what remained from my breakfast. I don't know how long I spent on my knees cleaning the floors. Might have been 2 or 3 hours. Eventually I end up in the bedroom finishing the last panel. I stretch out, feeling the pain in my back and my hands, but also a sense of pride at the fruit of my labour. I use whatever water was left inside to clean up the surfaces, dusting everything off with a damp cloth. I could see some stray wolves passing by the windows from time to time, taking a curious gander inside. I guess they just want to sneak a peek at the human, and I can't blame them. Had the roles been reversed and I learned one of my friends had a werewolf inside their house, I'd have done the same. As the afternoon turned into an evening, I admire my handiwork. The cottage looks quite homely now. And just as on cue, I hear knocking at the door. For a moment, I wonder whether I should actually answer. That's when the familiar cold voice reaches me.
Piglet?
I sigh through a smile, quickly opening the doors.
I got some food for you.
The black male stands in the doorway, holding in his paw a loaf of bread and a string of sausages. Thank goodness, all this work was making me quite hungry. Not to mention I just lost my only source of occupation and allowed me to steady my emotions. Will you stay with me for a while? The black male regards me with a risen brow, clearly surprised by the suggestion. Don't worry, it's not an immoral proposition. I jest. I'd like some company. Now that everyone knows I'm here, it should be fine, right?
Respiration doesn't suit you, Piglet.
He scoffs, walking past me and entering the cabin. I hastily close the door as the wolf approaches the table and inspects one of the tankards.
Might as well grab a beer if I'm to babysit you.
He teases, looking at me expectantly. Sure, if there is any. I shrug, looking around the kitchen. Volgo points towards a barrel standing in the corner of the room. Guess Rannoch's home is pretty well stocked up.
He always stashes the good stuff.
Volgo passes me the mug, shoving it into my chest. I guess he expects me to fetch the beer for him. I just shrug and decide to play along. As I approach the barrel, I notice it doesn't have a tap, but I can see the lid has a handle on it. I lift it up and submerge the mug in the dark liquid. As I bring it back to Vol, he already has seated himself comfortably at the table, his gaze clearly darting around the house in mild amusement.
I see Rannoch has found himself a little den wife.
What? I blurt out, blush appearing on my face almost instantly. It's extremely dirty in here. He croons teasingly, taking a gulp of ale and sliding the bread and sausages across the table towards me. Seriously? I don't get allergies. It's enough that there's fur everywhere. I can do without dust.
What's allergies?
He asks indifferently, catching me off guard. It's... Fuck, how do I explain it? It's when your body reacts badly to certain things, like getting a rash or a stuffy nose. I propose, grabbing a knife and cutting off a thick slice of bread. The wolf gives me a sceptical look, as I enjoy the wonderful aroma of a fresh-baked loaf.
Dust makes you ill?
He scoffs, taking another sip. Well, it can. Fur as well, but so far I'm fine. To be fair, I can't recall if I was ever allergic to fur or dust. I'm not going to admit I cleaned the entire house because I'm slowly losing my damn mind. I was simply tidying up because the last thing I need is getting allergies. Especially since it's spring, there's plenty of pollen in the air. Volgo puts the mug down and drills his gaze into me.
Flowers make you ill as well? Fuck me, might as well just roll over and die.
I curl my lips, staring at the ceiling. You're not a human, you wouldn't understand. Do beastmen even have allergies? I toy with a piece of bread, squishing a slice between my fingers. It's still warm and sprightly.
I doubt anyone in Avalon would understand your nonsense.
On that we can agree. I swear there's nothing more satisfying than the smell of a fresh bread. It completely distracts me from Volgo's jabs, inviting me to take a bite, and I finally succumb. I gasp, feeling the crust crunch between my teeth. The taste of the rustic grain immediately summoned emotions tied to some long-lost memory. A more wholesome time of happiness and joy. I'm in heaven.
Doesn't take much to please you, huh?
The wolf comments on my obvious satisfaction with a slightly troubled expression. You have no idea how much I wanted some fresh bread. It's almost as if you read my mind.
Well, actually, it was Rannoch's idea.
He looks at the window. Oh?
Well, ever since he found you, he's learning about humans. Your history, customs, staples of your diet.
I discreetly dart my gaze around the house, locating different books stashed in corners. Now that Volgol mentioned it, Ronald doesn't strike me as a scholarly type. He was doing his research while I was still unconscious. It makes me feel almost humbled.
I don't care much for bread. It's parade chow, so there's hardly any around that hasn't gone stale. But now you're no longer a secret, he asked for one to be made fresh for you.
I blinked, taking in what he just said. Rannoch went to all this trouble for me? Huh. That's extremely considerate and sweet of him. But at this point it's hard to differentiate between just his general kind-hearted nature and something more. Am I reading into things again? Probably. I mean, he did say he's not into me.
Well, everything all right?
The black male asks idly as he takes another thirsty gulp from his tankard. Yeah. I smile, biting into the bread again. As I chew, I grab the knife and cut off a piece of sausage. I give it a quick sniff before stuffing it into my mouth. Only now I notice that the wolf has been avoiding looking at me for quite a while now. I almost choke, trying to swallow my food through a laugh. Dude, you stabbed me. Being an experienced butcher, I'm sure you've seen worse things than me eating.
Want a bet?
He sneers teasingly, giving me a side eye. I just shake my head in amusement and continue with my meal. The sausage is nice, but a little bit too garlicky for my taste. However, I'm not going to complain about free food. All of this is extremely wholesome and makes me feel warm inside, as if an echo of my past tried to scream through the shroud of my amnesia. I've had to enjoy a homely meal like this before. I just sigh, relishing this sliver of a good memory. We sit like this for a while, Vol simply finishing his ale and not saying much. Doesn't seem to be much of a talker, but I don't mind. This company alone allows me to steel myself against any nagging feelings stalking the recesses of my mind. I just wish I had something to start a conversation with.
Well, despite the bandage looking rather gruesome, you seem to be doing fine.
Oh, yeah. I smile awkwardly, reminded that the dressing is pretty much red and crusty. Well, you did a good job. I rub my side to put him at ease. It looks worse than it feels, that's for sure. Vol readjusts himself, patting the hilt of his dagger.
Since you enjoy it so much, I could do it again.
He gives me a satisfied grin. At this point, it's hard to tell that he's teasing or being serious, but I decide to just laugh it off.
One has to wonder if you're not into it, considering how you almost begged to get skewered.
I roll my eyes, giving him a stern look so that the joke becomes slightly tortured. What are you on about?
The chief?
He asks mockingly.
I heard Rannoch's father nearly cut you open like an actual pig.
The wolf snorts, loudly slurping the remnants of his beer while I wince uncomfortably. Yeah. I'm not proud of my carelessness. Had Rissa not intervened, I wouldn't be here.
You dropped the ball, Piglet. I told you to be careful.
The male nods, giving me a patronising look. I know. I'm just grateful Rissa stuck up for me.
She didn't do it for you. She had she had any other choice.
He shrugs, toying with a now nearly empty tankard.
Had you been killed without her making a case, all of us would face serious consequences.
I assumed as much. I sink in my shoulders, awkwardly trailing my gaze around the room. Somehow I feel embarrassed if I disappointed him.
We have more luck than brains.
He snorts, noticing my discomfort.
The little runt went straight for his dad. Had it been Tano, he'd go for one of the elders and we'd all be fucked.
Perhaps you should tell that to Rannoch. I mutter, immediately recalling my conversation with the wolf. He seems to hold a grudge against his brother.
Why shouldn't he? The pup is nothing but trouble.
The black male scoffs in annoyance. He's still his brother.
Half brother, and siblings don't mean much to us.
He waves his paw impatiently.
Each of us is expected to have multiple pups, most of which with a different partner. So the only reason to keep track of all the blood relations is to not accidentally bugger one of them.
He lets out a loud snort as if the idea amused him. Yeah, Rannoch's told me as much. Their way of life is definitely much different to what I expected.
Why are you worrying about that pup anyway? It has nothing to do with you.
I just worry. I wouldn't want Rannoch to take it out on him.
2 peas in a pod.
The black male scoffs, slushing the remnants of his drink around the cup. What do you mean?
You and Rannoch.
He shrugs, taking a last gulp of his poison.
Worrying about strangers who get you into trouble is exactly what started this whole mess.
And you know I'm right, because saving me was a kind thing to do.
Kindness is what gets people killed.
The Black Wolf nods towards the other tankard on the table.
Are you going to have one?
I look at his risen brow. I'm not much of an ale drinker. Yeah, might as well. But I guess I can humour the wolf. Yeah, sure.
Now be a good servant to fill mine up as well.
I blink as he pushes his mug towards me, but decide not to make much of his tease. I walk over the barrel and plunge the tankards one by one, filling up to the brim with the dark liquid. It's almost as black as coffee. Ooh, coffee would be great. But something tells me to join the likes of salt and soap, another frivolity to tease me over. I place the tankard next to the Black Wolf and he picks it up.
Sláinte.
He raises his mug, clearly waiting for me to clang mine into it.
Sláinte.
I oblige and we spill a little bit in the process. I cannot contain a timid chuckle as I sit back and take a sip. The bitterness of the brew hits me almost instantly. It's malty and rich, almost like roasted cereal. There's also a hint of floral sweetness to it that I cannot wrap my finger around. I smack my lips, licking off thin foam that lingered on them. It's not like no beer I ever drank, that's for sure. If I drank any, that is.
Enjoying it?
I think ale is an acquired taste, no? He rises his brow. Considering I never had anything like it before, only time will tell. I can see my comment catches him by surprise and he laughs, shaking his head.
Ah, cheeky little piglet.
He takes a long, thirsty gulp, all the while gazing at me, almost as if expecting me to match his tempo. Yeah, that's not going to happen, buddy, but I'm willing to at least try. I take another mouthful, barely even tapping into the contents of the oversized mug. That's definitely more than a pint, at least 2 times more.
If you're going to sip it like a housefly, you might finish before next full moon.
He snorts as I swallow my drink. I have an annoyance and take another, this time much deeper gulp. Forcefully chugging the ale might not be pleasant, but it's actually better than the lingering bitterness when I take my time with it. Speaking of, I look at his moonstone, finally having a somewhat natural segue into a proper conversation with him. Are all wolves born during the same night, moon brothers? Like you and Rannoch. I shrug, taking a bite of the sausage to get rid of the aftertaste. In truth, now the sausage doesn't seem that bad. It pairs well with the ale. Masks its bitterness, that's for sure. I look to Volgar expectantly as he takes his time with another gulp. He eventually lets out a sigh and rubs his lips.
Why'd you ask?
Well, since you said blood relations don't mean much, I'm kind of curious. So you two make a big deal out of the Moon Brother thing. How do wolves become Moon Brothers?
You have to be born in the waters of the same moon while doing the same phase of a lunar.
A moonwell? I ask, cutting off another slice of bread. I watch as the wolf walks over the ale barrel, helping himself to a third mug. Surprising how fast he goes through those. I'm not even halfway finished.
There's a shallow pool at the centre of our shrine. It's lined with small stones and filled with clear spring water.
He explains, sipping off the excess that began spilling from the mugs he retrieved from the barrel. I think it's safe to say he enjoys the ale more than my company.
The pool supposedly collects the moonlight, blessing the waters which are then used for different religious purposes.
Like birth. I look to him as he takes his seat.
Among others.
The wolf shrugs as he wets his lips again. I can see he's nowhere near getting drunk. It's almost like drinking water to him. I just have a suspicion that once he has his fill, he'll simply fuck off. I need to pace him a little, so I cut off a piece of sausage and push it his way.
Heh.
He smiles at my gesture and takes a bite.
Those are for you.
I know, but they pair well with the beer. It's plenty enough for me. I smile, taking an idle sip.
Oh, fair play.
He shrugs, flicking up the remaining piece of sausage and swallowing it with a loud chomp.
Anyway, when a female goes into labour, she's brought to the well. Once a pup is born, one of the pebbles reveals itself as a moonstone.
I have 2 females going to labour at the same time. Well, you can guess the rest.
That sounds magical. I smiled, genuinely amazed by the concept. It sounds so simple and in tune with nature. Their traditions, even if odd, do have a certain allure to them.
Well, I guess so. I'm sure there's some trick involved. There's always a trick in religion.
He scoffs in annoyance.
I won't place much stock in the coincidence of being born at the same time as another pup. That's just sappy nonsense.
You don't believe in it? It's almost amusing how polar opposites these 2 wolves are, with Rannoch screaming fate at everything he sees, while Vol sniffing some sort of deceit everywhere he looks.
I might not believe in the supernatural aspect of my bond with Rannoch, but I've heard enough about the circumstances of my birth to concede a simple fact. We are moon brothers. The rest is fluff.
Oh? I issue involuntarily, expecting a follow-up. The wolf does not respond. Instead, Vol takes another long swig at his tankard, emptied in one go. Once he bangs it back onto the table, he looks at me with confusion.
What?
What were the circumstances of your birth? He rolls his eyes in annoyance. I guess he didn't mean to mention it. We can have another, I propose, which he only gives me a telling gaze.
How can you have another if you haven't even finished your first one?
He knows I'm fishing for detail. How can he blame me? Please, you can't leave me hanging like this.
Oh, try me.
He scoffs, standing up. Fuck, I'm losing him. Okay, I didn't want to do this, but you kind of owe me for the choking.
I owe you, you say?
He laughs mockingly.
Press your luck further, Piglet, and you'll earn another scar.
I watch as he approaches the door and fidget with my fingers in panic. At this point, I don't know if it's about the story itself or the fear of being left alone. Moonshine! I shout out as his paw lands on the door handle, almost surprised by the words that came out of my mouth. We can have some moonshine. He croons, narrowing his eyes and looking back at me.
That desperate, huh?
The black wolf snickers, approaching the cupboard, and I sigh internally.
Very well.
He walks towards the cupboard and retrieves the familiar clay bottle. I watch as he removes the cork with his teeth, causing a loud pop.
Here, earn it.
He passes me the bottle and I swallow heavily, feeling the boozy smell hit me once again. This is not going to be pleasant. I better put my money where my mouth is. I reluctantly grab the bottle, remembering his initial tip. I tilt my head back and allow a large gulp to slush straight into the back of my throat, swallowing deeply.
Humph.
He mutters in amusement, seeing as I manage to stomach 2 long swigs.
Not bad for a suckling.
He guzzles down nearly twice as much as I did and passes me the bottle again. It takes all my willpower not to wince as I force myself to take another gulp. Once I put the bottle down on the table, I quickly stuff my mouth with a piece of sausage. Well then?
Why are you so insistent?
He reaches the bottle and takes another swig. I just want to get to know you.
There's nothing worse than a needy drinking buddy.
The bottle slides across the boards towards me.
Especially if they cannot keep up.
I narrow my brows defiantly, taking a long gulp of the booze. I'm not really paying it any mind at this point. It stopped burning as it used to. I bang the bottle on the table and look at him angrily. I can keep up, don't worry. I look at him expectantly, to which he simply shrugs.
I didn't agree to anything, did I?
Ah, come on, not fair.
Life ain't fair, Piglet. Better get used to it.
Come on, Vol, don't be like that.
Marissa's right. You talk too much. Especially for someone with death penalty over their head.
The tribe already knows I'm here.
Yeah, it'll be a shame if they found out you can speak as well.
He nods towards the open windows.
Oh, shit.
Vol chuckles, watching me scramble to close them one by one.
Relax, Piglet. It was just a joke. No one dare to eavesdrop on us while I'm here.
Not even Howl? I stop my frantic efforts, looking at him with worry.
Well, especially not Howl. He ain't the bravest pup in the pack, and this tribe everyone knows to stay the fuck away from me. Maybe in time I can teach you that as well. Mighty curious how for a prey can you seem to have very little survival instincts.
I roll my eye, slightly annoyed he caused my heart to pound like a drum.
Thanks, I really needed a good scare,
I mumble, returning to my seat.
It wasn't a scare, Piglet. You are as clueless as an actual livestock. If anyone around finds out that you're ready for the knife, it's off to the chopping block.
Again, I roll my eyes, this time in apt analogy.
Thanks, noted. Simple, keep the windows closed when talking with Rannoch would suffice. You should cut the talking to minimum, really. This cottage became a talking pod. There'll be plenty of noses sniffing about. Anyway, time for me to go.
He stands up and takes a final gulp from the clay bottle.
Stayed here long enough as it is.
Why? Afraid other wolves will think you're enjoying the company of another kin? I grumble, thinking it was a jab at me.
As if I care what others think. I simply can see you got your hands full.
He looks around the clean house.
Rannoch's dirty laundry won't clean itself.
You dick.
Besides, you're out of the booze.
He tips the bottle over and lets it roll towards the edge of the table, forcing me to rush in to catch it before it crashes against the floor.
A nice one.
He winks at me in approval as he pulls on the front door.
Marissa should be with you in a bit. Trying to get killed between now and then.
The black wolf nods and leaves the house. With Volgar gone, I'm faced again with the dreaded feeling of loneliness. No, not loneliness, but being alone. For whatever reason, I feel almost under siege when there's no one around me. I need to occupy myself, and with a growing fear inside my chest, I have to do it now. I quickly glance at the cupboard, remembering that Vol mentioned Rannoch did some research on my kind. Considering my morning conversation with the Grey Wolf, it might be a good idea to find out more about my people. At least there'll be something to do. I approach the cupboard and pick up the topmost volume. It's bound in gilded red leather with a large golden plate donning its cover. The emblem is diamond-shaped and has a stylized paw print pressed into it. Looks awfully expensive, that's for sure. 6 Tribes of Tiernan. As I flip through the pages, it seems to be some sort of chronicle. There are different names written into it, supported by dates and details relating to them. It's a long and boring roll call of people long dead, going by the way the page is aged. Nope, this one's of no use to me, especially without context. I mean, there might be some human names there, but then again, how would I know? Also, the paw print on the cover tells me it's rather unlikely. I place the book down and pick up a blue tome which lied beneath it. It's much larger, even though more humbly decorated. The Great Tiger Rebellion. Another history book, and this one obviously not about humans. I wonder why Rannoch has it. Surely it didn't aid him in his research. I'm about to put it down when I realise these wolves kept bringing tigers up an awful lot. It might be worth giving it a quick read. I sit myself down comfortably, browsing through the book. It's a hefty volume and I don't feel like reading it whole. Not to mention, by the looks of the sun in the sky, there's little daylight left anyway. I skim the pages as briefly as I can, each of them filled with dates and names that mean nothing to me, and which are gone from my mind the moment I read them. However, on the whole, it seems to be a detailed account of an ancient war spanning a century or so, which started, as the title suggested, by the Tigerai raising a rebellion against the Old Kingdom. Seems that long ago Avalan used to be ruled by lions, who at least, according to this book, were monstrous tyrants. At first the Tigerai fought alone, but over the years their bravery attracted other kin to join their struggle. Decade by decade their alliance grew, until at the very end the Old Kingdom was no more, and the Lion King had to abdicate. It's so surreal to read about other beastmen. This really is a living, breathing world with its own history and customs. How can I feel so misplaced here? I sigh in frustration, burrowing myself into the book. It's not a pleasant read, and in fact most of the information is lost on me. At least it passes the time. Eventually I place the book down, utterly confused by the contents. None of this rings any bells. However, from the looks of things, the tigers don't seem to be as bad as the wolves paint them to be. Even more odd is the fact wolves do not feature in this book. I quickly glance over the pages again, trying to find any mention of them, but it's almost as if they didn't exist.
Before I can expand on my research, I hear a knock on the door. It must be Verissa. I close the book with a slight relief, returning it back to the cupboard. Not only was the read very dull, but in this dimly lit room it was outright laboursome on my eyes. I barely noticed how dark it got. "Sam, you there?" I approached the door without a word, remembering Vol's warning. I put on the latch, releasing the lock and allow Verissa to enter. The female rushes into the room and I quickly close the door behind her. "You're uncharacteristically quiet. Good." She nods in satisfaction. "But don't worry, I wasn't followed. The feast starts soon, so very few would waste their time here."
"What about Tano?"
My, it can be taught." She smiles with genuine pride on her muzzle. "He's busy, I made sure of it. He won't have time to sniff about." I watch as she walks over the shelf and retrieves a small plate. Only now do I notice she has a small sash at her waist, from which she takes a small file and some fresh bandages. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" Do I really want to admit I have no idea how to start a fire without burning this house to the ground? She's been questioning my age an awful lot. I don't want to come across as utterly clueless as well. I prefer it this way, less conspicuous. Right. I can see this wasn't exactly a convincing answer. Well, have it your way. She kneels down, slowly undoing my reddened dressing. I watch as strip after strip is removed, revealing my blood-crusted side. There's a large scab covering the cut itself, otherwise everything looks fine. "How do you find your current living arrangements?" She asks absent-mindedly while inspecting my entire side. "What do you mean? Do you like it here with Rannoch?" I guess. "It's a simple yes or no question, Sam." The female mutters, giving me a telling look. Yes, sorry, I'm happy here." Again, she sounds unconvinced. "Why'd you ask?" "I ask because the elders prefer to house you in the stockades."
"The stockades?"
"Our prison, and at first I was inclined to agree on the count of your—"
She cuts off diplomatically, obviously trying to find a proper word. I decide to spare her the trouble. "Fuck up?"
Quite so."
She smiles softly, placing a small cloth on the plate and pouring the content of the phial over it. The tincture has a slightly purple colour and immediately soaks into the material.
"That got Rannoch fired up like little Eva does. He insisted you became his ward instead. Peculiar choice, but he is the heir apparent. It was hard for the elders to say no, especially since he was ready to tear anyone to shreds over the issue, myself included."
My eyes widen in shock and she chuckles, catching my surprise.
"Figuratively speaking, of course, at least in my case." "Either way, to soften that spectacle and to make his claim on you somewhat less obvious, I offered to take you under my wing instead."
She shrugs, giving my wound a slight push, and I wince in discomfort.
"Sharp or dull pain?"
"Dull, but only when you press too hard."
"Curious."
Her muzzle twists in a frown. She looks intently at my scar. "You wanted me to live with you?"
"Well, it's more complicated than that. But yeah, should you ever want to change your accommodations, all you need to do is let me know. It might take a while to settle, but—"
"No." I blurt out almost in panic, catching her attention, but she doesn't say anything. "I'm really happy here. Rannoch takes good care of me."
"Indeed."
The female narrows her eyes ever so slightly, but enough for me to register a little shift. "Although, thank you for letting me know. I'll keep it in mind." She begins to wipe my side, clean it of all the dried blood, and I feel a slight tingling, followed by stinging. I wince in discomfort again. She pays me no mind, her brow still narrowed in focus.
"Technically you're under house arrest. As much as it doesn't sit well with me as it doesn't sit well with Rannoch, I'd rather go more subtly about it. I just want you to know that you have a choice, as limited as it is."
"Thank you, Verissa. That means a lot." Once the entire side is clean, she pokes slightly at the scab.
"Does it hurt?"
I shake my head.
"Good."
She continues to wipe the scab, washing away much of the dried blood and reducing it in size until she reveals the fresh wound beneath. She then pours the remaining contents of the phial directly over it, causing me to seize up in pain.
It's okay, don't touch it,"
she says softly, grabbing the clean dressing and covering the cut.
"So, you guys getting along okay?"
Does that surprise you?
"A little bit." Why? Call it female intuition and personal experience. Rannoch can be a little much at times. Yeah. I try to chuckle, ignoring the pain radiating through my entire left side. I still come across as slightly unnerved. Seems like I'm onto something. I didn't become a shaman for nothing, you know. She begins wrapping my side with clean strips of bandages, making sure that the new dressing sits nice and tight on my skin. I watch as she works her paws around me in silence. Eventually she forces me to speak up. Well then, you're going to tell me? Well, it's nothing really. I just struggle with reading that wolf. He's very forward. Not that I mind. It just takes me by surprise half the time. She pauses her task and looks at me with slight surprise. Quickly, however, that surprise is replaced with a knowing smile, and she returns to bandaging me up. That's Rannoch, all right. I swear that wolf never stopped being a pup. He was playful and teasing ever since we were little. Not to mention he's a massive flirt. I almost choke on that remark. Sometimes I think he doesn't even realise it. It used to drive me insane, but then I understood it's just how he is. At the end of the day, he's a flatterer. He loves to flatter others just as much as he likes to flatter himself. Yeah, sounds about right. I nod awkwardly. Don't let that fluster you. That's what he's after. If you ignore his teasing, he'll quickly get bored and move on to other jokes. As a last resort, you can just slap his ears. Moon knows it's long overdue. Problem is, I don't think I want him to move on to other jokes, nor I really think these are really just jokes. Perhaps it's just his way of coping with this extremely oppressive society. That or I'm again reading into things as is typical of me. It's nice to recognise some behavioural patterns among all this blankness. It's almost as if I'm meeting myself as a completely new person. There, all done. She smiles, admiring her handiwork and patting my side. Thank you. I look down, glad to be rid of that bloodied horror show. You're welcome. This was very fortuitous, you know. She mutters, collecting the reddish stripes on the floor. What was? You started bleeding almost as if on cue, made the whole scene so much more believable. Well, I wasn't acting. He did wolf handle me a bit. The female laughs at my poor joke. Yes, but still, seems the ancestors really look after us in our little gambit. Which is a good omen for sure, as we need all the help we can get to see this through. Thus, I'll be burning those at the altar as well. She wiggles my old bundle bandages. That's the key to my protection here, right? Sort of. They are an offering to our ancestors. It's done when one of us is gravely wounded as a sort of intercession. One of you. I emphasise to let her know the distinction wasn't lost on me. Drastic times call for drastic measures. Either way, only a shaman can do this, and only a shaman can determine if the offering was accepted. So here we are. Was it, though? Accepted, I mean. She looks at me a bit shocked that I ask such a question. Her troubled expression leaves me feeling slightly queasy, making the answer all the more obvious. Nobody knows what the future holds, Sam. Only time will tell. But for now, everything turned out all right. I give her a slight smile, nodding softly towards my patched-up side. Well, as all right as it possibly could, all things considered. She chuckles, and I watch as she slowly packs up her things. I follow with my gaze. She returns the plate to the shelf, feeling a void growing in my chest. The same nagging feeling of desperation fills my heart. I know the panic attack fast approaches. She's about to leave, and I really don't want her to. Before I manage to say anything, she gives me a worried look. What's the matter? Why is your heart racing? Fuck, I keep forgetting about their creepy ability. Oh, in this instance, it saves me begging another person to keep me company. I'm fine. Sorry, just slightly anxious. Well, it's to be expected in your situation. It wasn't an exactly peaceful experience for you these past few days. She pulls up a chair and sits down on the table, looking at me with a soft smile. I can stay with you for a bit. Not long, though. I'm needed at the feast. It would be a great insult if I left the chief hanging at the dinner table. Is Rannoch going to be there? I ask, worry he'll be held up longer than I would like. Last time he returned quite late. I know. She smiles, again giving me this unnerving, knowing look. He was pretty adamant he'll come straight to his home after his patrol. Oh, he shouldn't have. No, he shouldn't. The female agrees with a quite serious tone, however she quickly chuckles it off. But I long realised this wolf will do as he pleases no matter what. She locks her gaze with a clay bottle at the table and gently pushes at it, letting it wobble in place for a moment. I see Vol took advantage of your hospitality.
Not as much as I would like. I laugh. I thought we were bonding. He always told me about the Moon Brother thing, when he suddenly bolted.
If you want personal details from Vol, you'll need more moonshine than that.
She nods towards the bottle, clearly entertained by the idea of my attempt at befriending the Black Wolf.
He's not the one to open up easily. Still, him staying for even a little bit is a huge success.
How so?
Vol is more likely to pick a fight in the conversation. In fact, the only wolf he seems to tolerate is Rannoch. Those two...
She sighs with genuine admiration.
A bond like that is extremely rare, even among our people.
I smile, quite touched by the sentiment. They do seem to be true friends, not afraid to call each other out on their bullshit. Something I'm sure is rare even among humans. I envy them that.
You and the rest of us, those two are like two sides of the moon, and their moonstones attest to that.
Vol seems to suggest his bond with Rannoch has nothing to do with the moonstones themselves. She smiles, scoffing softly in amusement.
That's his cynical side. He's always weary of everything he cannot see or understand. But at the same time, I can empathise with him. After all, if people avoided you and you were told your entire life that you're damned only because of your necklace, you'd be quite resentful as well.
What do you mean? I blink in confusion, causing the female to pause. Her gaze drifts to the side. She clearly ponders whether or not she said too much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry.
No, I think you should know.
She finally faces me again with a rather serious expression.
It should make things a little bit clearer.
I nod expectantly.
Our births take place in the Moonwell. It's a shallow pool of water at the centre of our shrine which collects the light of a Luna and infuses the waters with it.
I know, Vol explained as much, but why to be considered damned?
The dark moon is a very bad omen, in fact one of the worst. No female would give birth unread if she could help it.
Why?
Dark moon represents the unforgiving, ruthless side of a Luna. She's the goddess of many faces, and a total eclipse is the most terrifying one. When Vol came into the world, he was seen as the avatar of her wrath, and everyone held their breath.
I narrow my eyes, slightly sceptical. It's quite easy to brush off one's behaviour as coincidental phenomena. Vol might be quick to anger, but I'm sure it's rather the result of years of being picked on rather than the omen itself.
And just as everyone held their breath, so did the pup.
I tilt my head in confusion.
Vol wasn't breathing or moving with eyes closed shut. He was stillborn.
My eyes widen in shock and I almost feel a void growing inside my stomach. I know he's alive and well, but damn. I did not expect such a turn in this story.
When a pup is born, a moonstone appears at the bottom of the pool. For as much as he tried, the shaman couldn't find one, confirming the unthinkable. Vol's mother was heartbroken and refused to leave the well. She cursed the name for Luna, then bargained with her, and finally she begged, all to no avail. The pain and suffering the poor female must have been impossible to describe. So she simply resigned herself to sitting there, in those waters, frozen in place and holding her unmoving newborn tight.
I swallow heavily, my eyes slightly glossed over. I can't even begin to imagine the horror of having your child die, let alone having it die before he's even born.
Shortly after, Rannoch's mother arrived at the shrine unexpectedly. Although her pup wasn't due yet, she suddenly went into labour. She was brought into the same waters, resting next to Vol's mother, and just as the last slivers of darkness departed the Luna's ever-changing image, another pup came into the world. Rannoch's very first yelp caused Vol to finally stir to life and open his eyes. Their first glances weren't to their respective mothers, but to each other instead.
A subtle smile stretches across my face.
Within the same moment, the shaman picked up both stones together, one fully black and the other fully white. It was almost as if Vol was waiting for his brother to join him, refusing to enter this world alone.
That's absolutely beautiful. It's hard to hide how moved I am by this story, but Arissa doesn't judge. In fact, she only smiles, nodding in agreement.
It is, and so is their unique relationship. They are the two sides of the same goddess, one full of hatred and coldness, the other loving and forgiving.
I chuckle, awkwardly rubbing my cheek to remove a stray tear. I can certainly attest their polarity from first-hand experience.
Ever since those two were at each other's side, inseparable, just like Mother Moon intended. Nothing would get between them. It would seem not even you. I look at her confused. Why would I get between them? I would never. You already did. Vol is extremely duty-bound. He would do anything for his people. As an outsider, you were a major threat. Every instinct in his body told him to kill you outright, but... She paused, sighing through a smile. Vol would sooner die than betray Rannoch or cause him pain. That sort of loyalty cannot be bought. You were the greatest test of his devotion. And that devotion is the only reason why you're even alive. The female takes on a more serious tone. Make no mistake, Sam. Vol tolerates you because Rannoch is dead set on you. If not for Rannoch, he would have killed you without a second thought. I wince uncomfortably. The feeling of utter confidence in the black male slightly weakened. I always knew it's Rannoch whom I owed my life. I just never realized how true this sentiment really was. Vol might be too blind to see it, but your fate was already decided those 2 decades ago, when as a frail pup he refused to draw his first breath. Fate doesn't happen overnight. It's laid out from the beginning of time until the end of the world. It's why it's so hard to see it at times. That's why it's near impossible to read it with any sense of certainty. You're basically gazing into eternity, hoping to catch a specific moment in time. She pauses, letting the words sink in, and I'm dumbfounded. Everything she says is true. Had Vol not forged his connection with Rannoch, I'd never have woken up in this cabin. It's also why I cannot always give a clear answer. Even I have to wait until the truth reveals itself to me, and that takes time and patience. One just has to observe and listen. You're alive because seemingly unrelated events happen at different times, forming a very specific pattern. She vocalizes my own thoughts, causing me to blink in realization. That's what Rannoch said. Fate has a lot of things falling into place in just the right way. I quote the Grey Wolf, almost surprised at how profound his wisdom was. Verissa closes her eyes and smiles, betraying a hint of pride. Well, I'm glad to hear he's not just a goof around you. He's not as bad as you make him out to be, I mutter defiantly. You think I don't know that? She laughs me off. He's my friend. He has been one for a long time, and will continue to be for many years to come. I'm only harsh on him because I know he's capable of being better. Because that's what he always strives to be. She explains matter-of-factly. He was born and trained to rule. He has the makings of a great chief. I just want to make sure the future he laid out for our people will come to pass. Each of his ideas might be controversial, radical. She interrupts me through a chuckle. Dear boy, you're the walking embodiment of those. A living, breathing proof this wolf will do anything as long as he believes it's the right thing to do. It's about time there's a wolf in charge with a moral compass and steel resolve to follow it. A moral compass. He told me to follow mine so many times, because that's the truth he strives to live by. He's really an amazing wolf. The fact that both Verissa and Vol place their faith in him proves it beyond doubt. Explains why I feel so safe around him. With Vol at his side, I need to advise him. It seems nothing can stand in Rannoch's way. I smile. Fate, Sam. The female nods affirmatively. Everything was arranged for any of us who were even born. All we have to do is play our parts. And now that also includes you. She stands up, issuing a melodic laugh. Oh, what's so funny? Not in my wildest dreams would I think a human would be a key to the future of my people. I'm still trying to piece together all the parts, but so far you fit into this puzzle. She rests her paws on her hips, looking around with slight amusement. Ancestors sure do like to laugh in the face of the living, but when you're dead the only thing you have left is the sense of humour. The female pushes the chair back into place and approaches the doors. I better head out, otherwise Rannoch's father is going to have another fit. Okay. I nod, standing up and approaching her. I put on the handle, opening the door for her. Ah, you do play your part well. You might survive us yet. She ruffles my hair as I blink in confusion, not really sure what she meant. I'm just being polite. You keep tight. Rannoch should be coming back soon. As the female leaves, I close the doors behind her. The house got incredibly dark and quiet with her departure. I won't let that bother me. Despite the creeping fear inside my heart, I simply shake it off and sit down, looking at the window. The ominous presence deep inside my mind stirs, growing bolder with each passing moment. I try to distract myself. I must distract myself. I cannot let it win. Rissa gave me a lot to think about, so I focus on our conversation instead. She certainly managed to clear some of my doubts about Rannoch. I can now clearly see he's simply letting off steam whenever he can. It's the only way to avoid breaking under such immense pressure. Don't think I'd be able to cope with so many expectations placed on my shoulders. It's incredibly impressive how well he manages, of all things considered. And then there's Vol, who I really need to be careful around. It would seem I've mistaken his leeway for friendliness. I can see he's genuinely amused by me, but it's definitely in the context of me being Rannoch's path. He's just entertaining his friend's whim. I can work with that. After all, the foot is in the door. And knowing now how harsh Vol's upbringing was, growing believing you were born bad, that must have been rough. A self-fulfilling prophecy. Him keeping distance is now so much more understandable. Yes, he is quick to anger, he's violent, but if a wolf like Rannoch cherishes him so much, then Vol cannot be evil. No, I do not see him that way. Blackstone be damned. He means so much to Rannoch, then he means as much to me. You mean nothing. Suddenly the strangest of feelings overwhelms me, as if I were contracting onto myself while the walls got bigger and taller. The shadows seem to elongate, reaching out from within the dark corners, and I immediately shift my gaze onto the table, locking my eyes with the woodwork patterns. It's not real. It's just in my head. I breathe heavily, not even realizing when I start to shiver. A torturous moan stretches across the back wall, as if the sudden expansion put a strain on the house. Feels like the room twists and contorts with the walls closing in on me. Get a grip, Sam. I grab my head, pleading with myself. I know this is just my panic attack, nothing more. The sound continues almost as if trying to prove me wrong. Stumbling to my feet, I nervously look around the room. It feels so small and insignificant, as though I shrunk and lost at least half of my height. I was undersized for this place before. Now it looks as if I can't even reach the table anymore. What is going on? My feet move back as I retreat from the kitchen. When I feel the room begin to spin, I simply run to the bedroom and slam the door shut. Fuck this. I slump down, resting my crying face into my knees. Fuck this shit. This isn't normal. My tears flow like waterfalls. I'm bawling my eyes out, and I realize that if I allow my wailing to continue, I will draw unnecessary attention to myself. I try to stabilise my breath, hearing it rattle loudly across the room. I remind myself what Rannoch used to do. I embrace my shoulders, slowly squeezing them in the rhythm of my palpitating heart. Breathe in. I recall his caring voice. And breathe out. With much struggle, I manage to regain some form of self-control. As my breath slows down, I take in the scent of the woods outside, almost feeling as if the wolf was here with me. You're all alone. I look around the empty room, feeling utterly helpless. I'm completely at the mercy of my empty mind. I don't even know what the hell is wrong with me, or my emotions spiral out of control so violently. One thing is certain. I'm alone in this world. With each passing day it becomes clearer that I've lost everyone. My family, my friends. Surely I had those. My life, such as it was, is now gone, replaced by whatever the fuck this is. My sanity cannot rely on Rannoch forever. For the time being, that wolf is the key to keep whatever the hell is going on with me in check. I don't have a choice but to lean in. I try to swallow, but a lump sticks halfway down my throat. I notice the jug of water in the cupboard and I get up. I pour myself a cup and drink thirstily. I'm parched and the realization finally dawns on me. It must have been the booze. This weird episode was just me tripping on whatever the hell it was we drank. I slap my head in mild annoyance. I'm such an idiot. I should not be drinking in my current state of mind. It's literally asking for trouble. I finally compose myself and take a deep breath, glad to find a reason behind all this madness. When I look around the dark room, a slight unease fills me once again. It's getting late, so it shouldn't be long before Rannoch returns, or so I hope. A chill creeps down my back, sending a shiver across my entire body. It's gotten cold again. I look at the chest, remembering there were some old clothes in there. It creaks open. I look at the contents. There's the sword, some of his old loincloths, doubtless one of which I was gagged with, and a spare cloak. I pull it out and flap it around to straighten the fabric. It's clean for the most part, I take an idle sniff. Phew! It's musky, very musky. I drop it to the floor. That's like a whole week of extensive workouts. But then again, I reluctantly trail the empty room. It looks so foreboding and unwelcoming. Being stuck on my own in this dark old house only makes it easy to surrender myself to despair and longing. Despite the sweaty smell, the cloak does remind me of him, almost if a piece of him was still here. And it is cold. I sigh and pick up the cloth, wrapping it around my shoulders. It's so snug. Feels as if he himself embraced me. Maybe a bit exhausted after a spa, a bit stinky, but still very much smelling like the forest. I decide to seat myself on the ledge to look at the woods outside. It's a very calm night, with a bright moon high above the treetops. The slow rustle of the canopy is much more soothing and calming than the dark interior of the house. There's no escaping the darkness stalking my mind. I feel as if I'm being watched. Again, my heart sinks and I burrow myself into the cloak, inhaling deeply. The scent calms me down slightly. My heart is already racing. The ease with which I freak out is alarming, but then again, I really don't have a clue what happened in those woods. I huddle myself, waiting for the oblivion to claim me. There's no such luck. I have to endure my tortured thoughts for what feels like an eternity, until I hear the doors to the house finally creak open. Rannoch returned. I try to collect myself, to rub away any stray tears. There's no hiding my distress. I feel like such a wimp. Rannoch opens the door of the bedroom and I can see he's clearly upset. I'm sorry it took so long. Father put me through hell on account of, well... It's fine. I cut him off with a weak smile. No need for him to make excuses. I'm just glad he's finally here. Is it though? Because it seems like you were crying. It's just my mind wandering off. I don't like being alone with my thoughts. It takes me dark places. Well, speaking of... The wolf walks towards the cupboard and opens the top drawer. He removes from it a bundle of tinder along with what I assume is a flint and some sort of steel loop. He puts the loop onto his knuckles and strikes the flint with it, allowing sparks to fall down onto the tinder. Within moments he lights up the candles and the room is suddenly bathed in the warm hues. Well, much better. I can't help but be amazed at his old-timey gadgets. I wouldn't last a day without his aid or guidance. Wish I was this resourceful. Well, I'm extremely tired. I had a rather rough sparring session today. He mutters, rubbing his shoulder with pain clearly visible on his muzzle. Well, I wouldn't mind staying up a bit. We could grab some ale, I proposed, remembering how Vol commented on the quality of Rannoch's beverage. You must enjoy it to have a barrel full of it. Oh, yeah, we could. The wolf smiles. I could get that for you. I nod towards his shoulder, but he didn't seem to understand my intention. Oh? I can try and massage it while you relax. That does sound nice. He smiles again, but quickly his expression fills with embarrassment. I don't want to take advantage, though. How could you, if I'm the one offering? I smirk, jumping off the ledge and rushing towards the kitchen. I'm not much of an ale drinker, but I will humour the wolf. He seems to have had a rough day. As I fill our mugs with dark brew, Rannoch builds the fire. He huffs repeatedly at the tinder placed beneath the logs, slowly encouraging the flame to climb higher. I bring the filled tankard to the table, observing him intently. It would be useful to learn his method, the sooner the better. Could you teach me how to do this? I ask once the flame dances merrily inside the hearth. Sure, there's not much to it. He nods, joining me at the table. This is the fire striker. The wolf places a metal loop in front of me. You make sparks by striking at the edge of the flint. He then plops down a small, glossy-looking stone. If you do that repeatedly on top of tinder or kindling, eventually you get fire. I always have some laying around, a top drawer in the bedroom. He points behind me at the cupboard in the other room. And here, underneath the hearth. The wolf looks down, drawing my gaze to a heap of twigs and hay hidden in the niche beneath the stove. Thanks, I'll give it a try tomorrow.
You better. I don't want you to wait in the dark until I come home. Well, that's not good for you.
Yeah. I laugh awkwardly, not really keen on discussing my little freak-out. Since he's finally here, I'd rather focus on making the most of it. As he plops comfortably down, grabbing his mug, I stand up and walk behind him. He follows me with his gaze as I begin to softly knead his shoulder. I offered you a massage, didn't
I? Yeah.
He muses, closing his eyes and enjoying my rubbing. I'm not exactly an expert, but I simply follow cues from his body. I apply as much pressure and force as it takes to draw a grunt from him, letting up and changing spots when I can see he's getting too worked up by it.
Feels good to be home.
He croons in pleasure. The soft growl reverberating his playful words draws a slight blush from my cheeks. He mistakes my embarrassment for something else and quickly turns to face me with a regretful expression.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was stupid of me.
Oh, what? I blink in confusion.
All you must be thinking about is getting back home, and then I throw a comment like that.
I smile at his train of thought. He's been considerate to a fault. It's fine, really. I know what you meant.
I will take you back, I promise.
He insists, his gaze full of determination. I know. I reassure him. I have absolutely no doubts about his intentions, but I'd rather not talk about my forgotten home right now. I simply nod towards my hands, let him know I want to return to the massage. He sighs, shaking his head in amusement, and rests back against the chair, allowing me access to his aching muscles. Well, sort of. I still have all his gear in my way. It'll be easier if I take this off. I knock on his shoulder pad.
Well, that eager to undress me, huh?
The wolf chuckles, causing me to gasp in annoyance, only to remind myself that teasing is just in his nature. I shall play along. We'll see who breaks first. If that's what you like to think. I shrug, approaching him from the front and sinking my fingers beneath the plate to feel up the latch. I can see embarrassment paint across his entire muzzle. He really is all bark but no bite.
What's the matter? Human got your tongue? Human will get bitten if he's not careful.
He issues a soft, playful growl as I detach the piece of armour.
Huh. Didn't even skip a beat.
He mutters with slight surprise. It takes me a moment to realise he's talking about my heart. I can see a proud smile stretch across his muzzle.
You start to trust me,
he says with satisfaction. I just can't help myself. That, or perhaps you're not as scary as you think you are. I chuckle, placing the metal pad on the table.
Aren't I?
The wolf croons, raising from his seat and squaring up with me. I literally reach only to his breast. If not for his obviously gleeful tail swings, I might even have been a little intimidated. Nope, you're just a well-kempt fluffball.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment.
I must have said it wrong. I tease, but he only shrugs, removing his leather straps and placing his massive sword against the wall next to the hearth. Once he sits himself back at the table, I get full reign over his entire back. I smile, rubbing his tense neck muscle while he draws air through his teeth. Yes, that's a sore spot, so I try to be gentler around it. Eventually he breaks the silence, his voice slightly deeper and strained due to my massage.
Did you manage to jog your memory a little while I was gone? Remembered anything at all?
Nope. I shrug in defeat, causing him to fall silent for a moment.
Shame. I was hoping there was a silver lining to your earlier distress. A bad memory, perhaps.
No such luck, I'm afraid. My distress seems to be entirely of my own making. Literally, it's all just in my own head. He burrows deep into his thoughts as I continue kneading his shoulders. In truth, it feels almost therapeutic for me, not to mention I get to feel up all of his muscles. It's almost like a walking anatomy model.
You worry about your memory, I get that. But I'm also glad I get to show you a bit of our life.
He mutters, taking an idle sip of his ale.
Perhaps this way you'll be able to see the rest of Avalon through my eyes. It's quite something, I tell you that. Being able to experience it anew almost makes me envy your memory loss.
He laughs merrily, while I push slightly harder against his shoulder in punishment for making light of my situation. As he grunts softly into my workout, I simply pretend it was unintentional. Have you ever been outside of this forest? I ask, moving my hands down to his shoulder blades.
Outside of Tiernan.
Is that what it's called? He nods, drawing air through his fangs in pains I find another bruised spot.
When I was little, I snuck out of the village. I hid inside a herb sack in one of our caravans headed for Strandbard.
I suppress a chuckle, imagining the scene. He's a troublemaker since birth. So that's where your scent comes from, I propose cheekily.
My scent?
He blinks in confusion. For a moment I wonder whether the comment wasn't too forward on my part. I quickly laugh it off, though. I had to endure his teases. It's about time he tasted his own medicine.
You smell like the forest.
I mused, noticing his tail gave an idle flicker before it began slowly swaying back and forth. He's struggling to contain a smile, clearly enjoying my observation. Where's Strandbard? I decided to spare him the lingering embarrassment of a genuine compliment by bringing our conversation back on track. It's handy to know that when he pushes my buttons, I can push a few back.
Well, it's a tiger-eye town just outside our territory. It's where most of our interactions with the outside world takes place. The name is actually derived from an old inn around which the town grew, the Stranded Bard.
Ah.
Well, I expected the place to be crawling with tigers. My surprise is filled with all sorts of creatures. There were lions there, sylvan folk of all shapes and sizes, even lynxes and wolves.
I muse, easing up on the workout and trying to imagine those various beastmen. All seemed so fantastical.
Well, I saw cubs playing with pups in the streets, as if they didn't see they were different species. There was no combat training, no preparation for war of any sorts, just idle folk going about their idle lives.
I almost picture a fairy tale town, with happy people only doing happy things and thinking happy thoughts. Only thing missing is the townsfolk randomly burst into a choreographed song. I know it's just his perception as a child. Perhaps the town wasn't as idyllic. However, the description does strike a chord with me. Sounds beautiful, really. He pauses, looking rather concerned.
It made me wonder why we lead such different lives, why we shied away from the other kin and jealously protected our woods. We're trained in combat since we're pups, always preparing for war. Other kin youth play with wooden swords and chase hoops. It was very confusing.
I glance at his chiseled but battered body. I can see that the wolf didn't really have an idle day in his life. Instead, his days were filled with endless chain of spars and exercises meant to hone his physique. He might have a rocking bod, but it came at the cost of his childhood. It's almost sad, really.
When my father found out, he was furious. We don't let pups outside our territory. We don't want them to get the wrong ideas.
I blink. Wrong ideas, like diversity and fun aren't bad.
You can scoff all you like, but yes. It makes you question everything your people stand for.
I've been questioning everything since I woke up. I can't hold in a laugh. I find questioning things be yet another good policy.
Well, not when you're too young to understand what it is you're questioning.
Sheltering your kids like that doesn't seem right. Almost like you're indoctrinating them. Rannoch looks back at me and I finally display my hands in a what gesture.
You don't understand.
From what you're saying, you don't understand it either. I protest through a snicker.
Well, I know why we don't let the young ones out. For the tribe to be strong, their resolve needs to be strong. The other kin don't need to worry about wars. There's millions of them. They have plenty of soldiers, even if most of their people have never seen a weapon in their entire life. There's maybe 100,000 of my kin left within these woods. We need to keep our wits about us to hold on to what we've got left.
I frown, slowly losing my hope that Rannoch is that much different from the rest of his people. What I've heard so far, they seem to be a highly militarized, almost totalitarian society. So you agree with this? Pups fighting with swords rather than playing with toys? Is that really what you want?
Well, I don't want our people to be weak, but also I don't want to continue this course. Avalon changed, and we should change with it. I want to see what the Tigers did with their supremacy over the continent. If indeed the Alliance of Tigrons is a fellowship of equals it's painting itself to be. Or just another lie, like the rebellion where we traded one overlord for another.
Immediately I remember the book I browsed through. I almost want to engage with the topic. Eventually I just sigh, looking at my hands still kneading his strained shoulders. It's all really weird, like a fairy tale. Talking beasts, castles and queens. A little girl comes to my mind. She's lost in a strange world and her only way home is to simply follow the lead. through the looking glass. I chuckled, knowing I even had my own off with his head encounter just the day before.
Huh?
Nothing. I shake my head, looking back at him. I might not know much about wolves and tigers. The more you say, the more convinced I am this little adventure you had as a pup did more good than harm. It made you curious. That longing to explore and to understand made you more accepting of others, and I admire it. He stretches out with a satisfied grin.
Thanks.
Also glad we'll get to share this little adventure together, learning from one another.
Oh, damn right.
Rannoch cheers, raising his mug and spilling a little bit of his brew. I roll my eyes in slight annoyance. I just cleaned the floors.
In all fairness, I was quite nervous about you. I knew you were my path the moment I found you, but I worried.
What about?
Well, you know.
He mutters with a troubled expression.
Would we...
He interlocks his fingers in a jigsaw gesture, and I laugh.
And did we?
I smirk, causing his eyes to narrow.
Okay, I think you're confusing overconfidence for an attractive trait.
As the kettle said to the pot. I quote him right back, pushing playfully on one of his muscles, and the wolf widens his eyes in shock. Our joint laughter fills the room, and I return to soothe his aching back. I must admit, it feels nice to be able to talk with someone so openly. No matter the subject or what our respective position is on the matter, we always manage to return to a common ground. It's an amazing quality. This wolf, there is something about him I simply adore.
Damn, this feels good.
I bet. A sly smile paints across my face. I bask in his praise. That is, until I see a bulge in his crotch growing larger with each workout I give to his muscles. He's enjoying it far too much. I pull my hands away, returning hastily to the table, pretending I haven't noticed. The last thing I wanted him getting all self-conscious and giving me another speech about being defective. I grab my mug and nervously bring it to my mouth, trying to swallow a long gulp.
Oh, thanks. I needed that.
He mutters, still savouring the afterglow of my massage. You're welcome. I respond, looking away to hide my blush. I want to continue the conversation, but I can see he's completely out of it. He just leans his head back and rests his eyes. I slurp the ale through the awkward silence, checking up on him every now and then. Every time he's around, a complete sense of calm descends upon me, the point where I simply enjoy his presence. I look at the trees outside, gently rustling in the wind. I wonder what time it is. Curious about the tiger rebellion he mentioned, I consider picking up the blue book again. I notice Rannoch's head slumped slightly to the side. I think he drifted off to sleep. I look at his crotch and confirm he's been completely pacified. Damn, he must have been really exhausted. That, or my rub-down, had relaxed him to the point of utter bliss. I chuckle it off. Who am I kidding? My poor attempt at a massage most likely will cause him soreness in the morning. I also banish any thoughts of late-night reading. Sitting here in the dimly lit kitchen with the snug warmth of the fire, I become quite groggy myself. I allow us a few more moments, struggling with my drink until I give up. The bitter brew is not my kind of thing. I poke Rannoch, stirring him up from his nap. Mentally, he's already in tomorrow, so I have to help him up. Considering his size, it's not an easy task. He really weighs a lot. Once he stands up, he slumps slightly onto my shoulder and I almost stumble. Okay there, buddy. Let's go. I lead us slowly into the bedroom. When inside the bed, Rannoch plops onto it with a heavy thud.
Oh, I love you so much.
He mutters quietly, clearly addressing the mattress. I find it rather cute. Within just a moment, I can hear him snoring softly. I blow out the candles, laying myself down next to him. I dart my eyes between his peaceful muzzle and the soft flickers of the slowly dying fire within the hearth. I hadn't felt this calm the entire day. The soft orange hues flooding from the kitchen just make this whole scene so idyllic. Only one thing would make it better. As if he read my mind, Rannoch's massive paw swoops behind me and pulls me closer to his chest. Considering what he said, I should try and free myself from his embrace. I'm nowhere near that strong-willed. Instead, I succumb to my dire need for proximity. I sigh, smiling in a mix of guilt and happiness, completely enveloped by his smell. I try not to fall asleep just yet, simply enjoying this intimacy. I could stay like this forever, just watching him sleep, his peaceful muzzle softly smiling even through his slumber. It doesn't take long for his rhythmic breath to lull me to rest. I drift off effortlessly into a tranquil dream. To be continued.